Hi everyone, my name is Chad Netwig. I will be your instructor today on the AP CSA lesson. We are going to cover some code that I used in my career. I'd like to give you a little bit of a background of myself. First of all, I've had the honor to work in the industry for about 20 years as a software developer and system administrator. I have a master's degree in computer science from Arizona State University, so I have some recent formal training in artificial intelligence and things of that nature. I've worked on some big projects, like one of the largest desalination plants in the world in Saudi Arabia, doing an AI interface for chemical optimization. So it was a optimization problem using artificial intelligence. Anyhow, I'm bringing today one of my projects that I worked on a few years back, which was for a wellness destination slideshow that was actually written in a graphic user interface, but I changed it today to be more of a console output for what we're doing because that aligns with your curriculum for the AP Computer Science A course. So what we're going to do today is three things. We are going to first look at some code that is written to simply just display out a few different destinations and some information about those. These are just going to be in text to the console, and we're going to take this code, look at it, and try to find out why it's inefficient, and then we're going to then refactor the code using a more efficient data structure. So we're going to go over a little bit about data structures. We're going to be focusing on your Unit 4 data collections. It's a big part of your exam, as you can see. I'm going to try to give you some of the best practices that I've used throughout my career and explain this as I go along. I will give time for questions so that we can be interactive with this. So with my coding, I will be using code HS Java, and we will be going step by step through this today. So first thing is we will look at the code. Second thing, we'll talk about improving the code, and then finally we will tie this into your exam with respect to data structures and how we've improved this for you, okay? So it's good to be here with you all. It's very much an honor, and thank you for your time with me today. So let's dive right in. We have about 20 or so minutes to cover this lesson. So as you could see on my screen here, we are looking at a demo driver, and basically what that is we're going to be running side by side two different tests here, and we're going to have again the sort of the not ideal code, and then we're going to have the ideal code. So this driver is simply driving those two pieces of code. We're going to start with the non-ideal code, and we're going to just go right in there. I want to give you guys a few minutes to just look at this code. As you can see, it has the standard class, and we have the entry point with the void main. There is something wrong with this code that will not compile correctly. I want to give you a minute to look at that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and compile it, and it will reveal our error. Over here, as you can see on the right-hand side, we're going to see the results of compiling our code. So right away, we get an error, and as you can see, we always must have our string array with our args, and that's what it's looking for. As simple as that. As you can see, I've commented out the slideshow array list. We're going to be working with arrays, and we're working first with if-else statements. So let's run it again. As we can see, let's go over to the code so you guys can make sense of this. So clearly what this is doing is we just set a Boolean here to true or false to use our array list. And that is the topic of our lesson today, is using a data structure called an array list. We will get to that, but for now, let's get to the not ideal code, which is using if-else statements. So first of all, I'm going to start off with this code that's pre-coded, and then we're going to rebuild this together as we refactor. So it'll start to make a little bit more sense as we go along. But as you can see here, we have a class destination with our standard private fields or constructor, and we have one single method in there, which is toString, which just simply prints out, as you can see over on the console output here, these travel destinations. Now look at these. We basically have a single class here, a public class, as you know, that we can only have the one class per our Java file. So we just have this slideshow if else here. It simply prints out the five wellness destinations that we've hard coded in. Now, what do I mean by hard coded in? Now, let's take a look at our helper function here. If you notice here, we have hard coded, meaning we have set 5 different conditional statements on an iterator. We're calling our iterator I. So I equals 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So we have this setting up our, really what we're doing is we're creating a destination object 5 times here, because we're returning, as you could see, the destination there, and it has 3 parameters or fields that it's that we're concerned with. And the only ones we're concerned with today, guys, is this name, description, and image path. Like I said, this was from a real life project. It doesn't look like much here, but these would display really nice pictures of these resorts and places around the world. And for just today, we're just dealing with plain text here. So, okay, so let's look at the problem here. So we have our main iterator, our main for loop. As you can see, we're setting I equal to 1. We are here at I is less than or equal to 5, and then we are incrementing. So as you guys know, we start off with, I'm going to go ahead and annotate here. Give me one sec here. We start off with our I, set it to 1, and then every time so we set it to 1, the condition goes up to 5, and then we increment, which is the I++. So that would make it on the next round I equals 2, all the way up to where I is lesser than or equal to 5. So we're going up to 5. But the idea here is that when we enter this for loop, our I is set initially to 1. So let's step through this together. We have a destination. Clear this off. We have a destination, and we have just a variable that we've called current slide. As you can see, destination is indeed our class that we have signed up there. I'll scroll up in just a second on that. So we call this function here with the I equal to 1. So we have our get destination. I think I need to get out of this so I can scroll down. So we have our destination where if I equals 1, so we're calling this function, we're passing in an integer, which is our iterator. In this case, it's 1. And then if it is equal to 1, we're returning the object destination. And of course, we have to pass the 3 strings to it. So scroll up and see what those strings are again. It's the name, the description, and the image path. As you can see over here, that's what we have. 1, 2, 3 different lines there. Let me get rid of this annotation here for you. Okay, so pretty straightforward. I think that you guys can see we just simply have a private package sort of object here, which is available to this project. We'll go in a little bit later as to why this is not a ideal practice as we refactor. So as you guys can see, that as this iterates, I is being incremented each loop. It's simply printing out this current slide, which would be the toString, which looks like this. This is the toString method of the destination class, which is the name. And then as you remember, the slash n there is a new line. It's a new line indicator. So we have the description, which is here. And then we have the image file name, and that's just pulling that. And then we just have simply the name, which is up front here, which is this here. That's all it's doing, so nothing too complicated. Now, here's the thing. Now, if we were to add another destination, let's just say I'm going to copy paste this code here, and we went in and we have this, let's call it the next one in 6, and I'll just call this here 6, and this would be, say, new destination, and then we'll just call it let's call it Hawaii. Okay, so then we have these other things here. I'll just call it HHH 5 diamond, and then we'll call it 6 here. You guys get the idea. So what do you think would happen if I ran this as is? Am I going to get an error? Am I going to get the 6th one that I want? Think about that, and we will continue. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run it, and we will see what our results are here. Now notice we have a problem here because we only have 5, but we do have 6 defined. So this is the problem, is that every time we want to add a new destination, we have to manage our iterator, our loop, and that is a problem for scalability, because imagine if your employer asked you to do 100 or 1,000 of them. Trying to maintain that would be brittle code, and it would not be best practice. But for today, I will put a 6 here on our iterator and run it and see what happens. And there's our new destination. Now let's just say I didn't want this destination, so I delete it out, and we just end back up with our 5. Now here's another problem with this code, is that we're iterating to 6. We only have 5, so we will return a null. It's going to fall into a default condition, which is null in this case. So if we run it, we're going to get an issue because, as you can see here, it's expecting it's expecting to return a object of destination instead of returning a null. So it's going to throw an error. As you can see, this code is very brittle. So let's move on. I'm going to introduce quickly to you how we're going to solve this, and we're going to use a data structure that you will see in your exams. In this case, let's start here. So we have a dynamic data structure. It's called an ArrayList. So what this is going to do is, you could think of an array as a fixed size, like an ice cube tray, for example. If you had, you just draw it over here. If you just had so many slots in here, 0, 1, 2, 3. Again, with computer science guys, most of the time we start with 0, not 1. And that's also another problem with our code. If you go back to our iterator, we started incorrectly with 1, although it's more human to do so. In computer science, we call that an off by 1 error, and we want to avoid those, so we start our data structures and other loops and things of that nature out with 0. Over here, so if you had to delete one of these in an array, you would end up with basically a placeholder here, 0. It doesn't resize automatically. That is why we use ArrayList, because it's kind of like a connectable train, if you will. If you have these connected, say if you had these slots here, 0, 1, 2, 3, and we delete 1, it will automatically shrink down to 0, 1, 2. So then you can see this. We could take things out from we can add and append to the end of the trains or the array list, or we could replace things. Now we're going to use, for the sake of your AP Computer Science, array lists. And so you can see over here, I need to go back to, I think it's, take that off. I think it's over here. You can see we're going to be using the array list here. That is going to, where we can add, and we could remove, and we could set different elements. So that's what we'll be using. One of the other things too is it has a size. So I will show you that here in just a minute. We go back to our lesson here. Okay, so let's go back over here, and let me go ahead and clear this for you guys. All right. So we're going to be using an array list, and let's go ahead and get started. So if I were to, let me go ahead and create a new file. We will call this file, let's see here, we're going to make a new file called slideshow ArrayList.java. And for now, what I'm going to do, we'll do this a little later, I'm just going to make this real quick, is I'm going to copy our destination over to our new one here, and then let's build this up a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import from the main library here, the Java util array list. And we'll go ahead and leave this name here. We have an entry point here. We're going to change this. As you notice over here, we have it called run demo. We're just going to go ahead and use that because our demo driver calls that. So we see that here. Run demo. I'm going to fix that one in a second. So let's go ahead and do that, run demo. We don't need to pass any arguments to it. And again, that's one thing I forgot to mention. We need these arguments, as you know, this is the main entry point to the program itself. So what that means is that if you were to have this Java at, say, a command line level, and you wanted to pass strings into it and handle those strings, that's how the program will receive those. And when you bring the strings in, it will auto size the array for you. So that's one of the nice things about Java here. In our case, we're not going to pass anything from our demo driver into our, we're not going to pass any parameters. In other words, here, nothing in here. So we're just going to call the function. All right. So the first thing we want to do is set up a array list, and I'll show you what's going to happen. Now with array lists, we have to use a wrapper, unlike, say, an array where there is primitives like your int and so forth. These use objects. So we need object wrapper. ArrayList only deals with objects, and that is back over here. So we deal with only objects in our array lists, and then we ints, doubles, and booleans. Again, the main thing with array and array list is that the array list is dynamic, and we like to use that, even though it's a little bit more expensive when it comes to algorithms and the technical processing under the hood. Array lists are very convenient to work with. There is one thing I wanted to mention. So if you're in an iterator, now this will be on your test, this is very important. So if I were to delete, say if I had an array list of 5 elements in it. If I were to delete, say, element 1, but I'm doing so within my for loop, the problem is it will skip to the next one. So you would, in this case, you would skip over 30, which would be in the place of where I equals 1 or iterator would equal to 1, and then you would skip over. So just keep those things in mind. We don't have enough time to really go into that demonstration today, but that is something that will likely find its way onto your exam. So we're here to try to get you understanding these things from a very practical standpoint today, and that's what you'll see a lot of on your exam. Okay, so let's go back, and we want to go ahead and wrap this with a destination that is our object, and then we want to we'll go ahead and call this slide deck, and that's just a variable name I'm using there. And then we're going to set up a helper method below here. So so for example, down here, we'll set up a public okay, and then we're going to set up the array list as a destination type. We're going to call it list equals new array list destination. Okay, so I'll explain this a little bit further. So we're just, with the interest of time here, going to this is where we're going to put those destination those 3 parameters, the name, the description, and the image path into an array. So we do that since we basically set up an array of type destination, and we're going to call it a list. That's an arbitrary name, and we're going to create a new object in memory, a new array list of the type destination. So we start off with that, and then we're going to list. We're going to use the add. I showed you before, we have the add method of our array list object type. And then we're going to add a new destination. And then we're simply going to add our parameters here. That number 1 destination. And then we got to use just a comma there. We're going to pass in the 3 parameters, as you can see up here. Next one's the description. So we're going to say number 2 description. And then we're going to put a comma there. And then finally, this would be some kind of path. This should be number 1 description. This should be path 1.jpg or whatever. And then we're going to go ahead and finish this off. Of course, we have to close the parenthesis here, that's our, and here. So those are 2 parentheses. And then simply we're going to return this list once it's called. Okay. And let's close out our thing there. And let's see how far we got here. So we just copy pasted the destination, and then we just set up an array, and then we just did one. We just added one of them. So let's run it and see what we get. Okay. Expected import Java util ArrayList. And that is on line 19. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so what do we do there? Import Java ArrayList. Okay, I'm thinking that number 27. Okay. So what we're going to do is, one of the things that we're finding is that we have this destination in two different parts of our package. So we need to bring this, this is the standard practice way to do this. We need to bring this out and into its own file. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to cut it out. I'm going to create a new file, and we'll just simply call it destination Java. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in. Only thing now, we need to make this public. We always want to have one public per file. That is standard practice there. And we will go ahead and just save that. And then when we come back over to ArrayList, we will just remove this out. This simplifies our code, as you can see. This is the whole idea of scalability and reusability. What we're trying to do is use destination in two different files, the if-else file, and also our array file. So let's go ahead and try to run it again, see what we get. Okay, so we have another error. Okay, so public static array list destination. So that is on our line here. Okay, so what do you think it is, guys? Let's troubleshoot this together. All right. Array list, public static array list. All right. It looks to me like we have an issue with a closing bracket there. We have one there. We may have to bring this, looks like it might be, we have to bring this up into our main class here. Let me try that. See if that helps us. Okay, so what it was is it was outside of our main program here. It needed to be encapsulated up in the, not the main program, the main class. So in other words, these need to be within the public class, and it couldn't understand that. So, however, we're using the hard-coded version still. So we got to go back over to our demo driver and set this over to true. And then I'm going to uncomment this. This is just driving our new array list. So let's try it. Modern version. So, okay, I see what we did. We don't have anything that we're printing out. So, and we have no iterator. So we got to fix that. We got to do that here. So we'll go ahead and why don't we make this a little quicker? We'll copy just these. I'm just going to copy this line here. And that way we could just have a similar type of experience. So all I'm doing is printing out this line. Just give it a little run there. And then we'll start our iterator here. For loop, we're gonna go set our iterator to 0, which is our proper way of doing things. Now we have a new thing that we're gonna introduce here, slide deck. Remember, slide deck is here. It's an array list. It has a method called size. As you can see, we're already better off because it will just count the size. In this case, we don't have to adjust the top and bottom here like we did in the if-then one with respect to how many items and the upper end of our iterator. So there's that. And then we're just going to do the standard I++, which increases the iterator by 1 for every loop. And then why don't we go ahead and put in the destination. We'll call it current slide. And equals the slide deck. We'll get, we're using a getter. We can go into that into another lesson, but it's a built-in method within ArrayList, which is great. Just gets the index within the array. System out, and then we'll go ahead and print the current slide, and we'll use the toString. Let's close this off. Okay, so we're running out of time. What I will show you here, we put destination in its own file so that we can reuse it for the two different tests, which is the ArrayList and the if-then. We go over to our ArrayList. We will see that we're just simply making a run demo. We're setting up an array. I believe we did that. I'm not sure where we went wrong there. We did a couple print to consoles. We set up our iterator, and we did a getter here. And then we had our ArrayList class down here, which is our helper method. All it's doing is adding, as you can see, it creates a list. That's an arbitrary name in the type of ArrayList destination wrapper. And it adds a new destination with these 3 parameters. And as you can see, if I wanted to add a final parameter, I could do so here. And we'll just call that Hawaii again. And we'll just call that HHH. And we'll call that the 6. And then you notice I don't have to update my iterator because it already has this to size here. Okay. And that should do it. Okay, there it is. So as you can see, this is much more scalable. So if you had a customer or somebody that you needed to add several of these, you'd want to use a data structure like an array list where it's very easy to add and remove, and it maintains itself. So that completes our lesson for today. So remember that data structures are very important in coding, software development projects, reusability of code, best practices by taking reusable code like we did with destination, putting it in its own file. I know we went a bit quick over this today, so we can go over this in a little bit more detail in our next session, and we could fine-tune the understanding here a little bit for you. It has been a true pleasure teaching you this lesson on using an ArrayList data structure to make scalable and reusable code. And it's very much a pleasure to be here with you guys. Thank you very much.